So thank you again for being here to kick off our second annual Young Leader Speaker Series, organized by Wing and Project Next. And you'll hear a little bit about both over the course of the next 2 minutes that I'll be speaking. So this series, which was developed as a collaboration of more than 10 young professionals from companies across the region, inclusive of Independence Blue Cross, Vanguard, Francis Kaufman, just to name a few, came together to meet the needs of the growing workforce and demographic in our region. So we surveyed over 100 millennials to essentially kind of understand what they're looking for. And this is the feedback that we gathered from that to create this 4-part series designed to encourage and inspire the next generation of leaders.
So again, my name is Tamara Scott. I'm lucky enough to chair Project Next at United Way, and I'm very excited to be here today talking to these wonderful leaders in our community. So I'm going to introduce each of them. We have a couple questions to get the panel started, but we'll definitely leave some time at the end for everyone here to ask their own questions as well. Great. So first we have Mike Banks. He's the president of the African American Chamber of Commerce of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, which works to support the economic empowerment and growth of African American business in the region. Mike is a recipient of the Philadelphia Tribune's Most Influential 10 Under 40, the Philadelphia Business Journal's Most Talented Leaders 40 Under 40, and Top 100 Influential Leaders in the Region, and the Philadelphia Sixers Game Changer Award. Lots of awards. And I saw on your official Twitter account, you guys do a really cool Trivia Tuesday, so @official_AAC. Any interesting trivia? I know it's Thursday, but...
Not that I'm aware of. They keep it a secret from me,
okay.
Actually. So I'll find out when you find out.
Okay, great. Well, everyone follow along, so next Tuesday's a good trivia question. So Eric Goldstein is the executive director of the King of Prussia District, which is a private nonprofit organization that works with 300 commercial property owners to keep King of Prussia economically competitive. So Eric has led highly successful efforts to reposition King of Prussia as one of America's great edge cities, contributing significantly to the current $1 billion economic development boom in King of Prussia. He was named the 2016 Best Visionary by Philadelphia Magazine. So you guys also are active on social media, on Instagram, @VisitKOP. You guys post a lot of great food. What's your favorite restaurant in King of Prussia?
That's a super loaded question. I'm not allowed to answer. They're all great. But there's been some we've added almost 40 restaurants in the past 2 years, so come on out and eat.
Yes. So our next question is, who's your favorite child? Just
My favorite child?
Like picking a favorite restaurant. Okay. So next we have Tiffanie Perry, Vice President of Talent Acquisition and Diversity and Inclusion right here at Amerisource Bergen. So Tiffanie oversees the global talent recruitment strategies to attract and hire the right people to support the company's growth, and drives the diversity and inclusion strategy for the organization. She spent over 15 years in human resources and has a combination of executive staffing and corporate experiences. So before this panel, Tiffanie and I were chatting a little bit, and I used to do a decent amount of interviews and got some crazy answers from individuals trying to interview. So Tiffanie, do you have any interesting tidbit or something you've seen on an interview to share with us?
There's so many, because there's people, and if you're dealing with people every day, you know. But I will give you one tidbit, and this is what we were talking about. Do not eat during an interview. So I was interviewing a senior candidate from a pharmaceutical company, and she whipped out a bagel with some cream cheese and everything else out of her bag. So needless to say, I think appropriate behavior is very important.
I'd be paranoid to get something in my teeth at the end of that.
What? Or drop it, or...
No points for being here.
No, you know, just bringing your whole self sometimes just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Not all the time. You gotta...
Cool. So we also have Tiffanie Stanard is a techie, creative, radio personality, and producer, and entrepreneur. Tiffanie is the president and CEO of Prestige Concepts, an award-winning brand enhancement firm specializing in branding and marketing strategies to fuse for-profit and social impact messaging. Tiffanie is also the founder and CEO of Stimulus, a technology and media company. She was named one of the 15 women changing the face of technology by the Philadelphia Business Journal, and one of the most influential 10 under 40 by the Philadelphia Tribune. So Tiffany's website is very active as well. And Tiffany, is there any event in the Philadelphia area that you have not been to?
I have not.
Seems like you're all at every event. You're interviewing people at Made in America, with United Way about early grade literacy.
I don't think so. It's been 10 years of going to a lot of events, a lot of networking. Now I kind of slow down. I don't go to as many events that I used to. But for probably the first 5 years of my business, I went to everything just because I was trying to build my network.
So long story short, if you're trying to get into a special event or party,
yeah, I know about it, or I can put you in as media.
Cool, well thank you. So there is more information in those packets that Kate talked about if you want to learn more. So we're going to get started with our first question here. What were the top 2 things that you believe were pivotal to acquiring your current leadership position? Was it a particular expertise, a mentor, anything in particular that might have helped get you where you are today?
So I'll start. For me, and I actually talked about this yesterday, jumping into entrepreneurship was kind of by default because I was working at a lot of jobs at that time. So I became a full-time entrepreneur around 2008. And before that, I was on payroll, I was a bartender, I was a hostess, I was in retail. And I couldn't figure out what kept me happy. Everything was boring to me. And my last job was payroll. I was doing payroll for Sunoco. And I was there for years. And I was the youngest person in the department, but I was doing my business part-time. And they was in the process of laying off thousands of people in 2009. I don't know if y'all remember that, around that time, the recession. And you had the choice to either wait or volunteer to get laid off. So when you get laid off, you get the whole package, the pension, you can cash out your 401k and all of that. So it was a hard decision, but it wasn't. So it was a hard decision because I decided like, okay, I'm ready to go. And then people were like, you're the youngest person here, you're making the most, why would you leave? I'm like, I think this is the perfect time to leave because 1, I'm leaving with a lot of money. And 2, I can actually go into my business full time, which kept me going when I would leave that full-time job. So decided to volunteer to get laid off, got laid off with a package, the severance pay, unemployment, it was a little bit of everything throughout that time. So I was able to be self-funded for my business for the first few years of the business. So that was my leap because at that time, if they wasn't laying off people, I probably would have still stayed because I was kind of scared to leave because I was the youngest person there and I felt like, oh, this was the great opportunity for me to be there. So that was kind of like my first leap. And now going into my second business, focusing on Stimulus came from the needs that I had with my first company, Prestige Concepts. So we create a platform to connect communities to resources like grant sponsorships and contracts, but then we also work with resource providers, corporations, governments, foundations to help them discover applicants for those resources. So we simplify like their grant sponsorship process and help them discover applicants to make sure they have a positive ROI. So I took that leap knowing that I was already doing it for years under Prestige Concept, and I was like, oh, I can actually charge for this because I was doing it basically for free. Oh, Comcast would say, hey, we need 10 people to fill out this grant application. Can you recommend 10 companies? So it was a lot of taking that leap, and the first one was kind of forced because I had to make a decision, and then the second one was like, this is the time to do it, and I just took a leap.
Great.
Well, 2 things that led me to my current position. You are told that you're never supposed to talk negatively about a job you're in, but the last job I was in was horrible. So actually the job was great, the boss was horrible. And I just was reading an article yesterday about how people leave their bosses, not their jobs, and that was very, very true. So I had sort of this negative motivation. I had to get out of this job. So I was out there looking, and I think that in my world, it's business improvement districts, The jobs are few and far between. So it's a very specific skill. It's a very closed network. But the two things that sort of led me to the job were one, I knew the company that was doing the executive search, which was kind of a funny story because I was just meeting with the guy, the managing director who was in charge of the search, about 3 months before, and I said, if you ever see a position for an executive director role in a business improvement district, let me know. Because he knew me from my former job at University City. That's not the bad job, by the way. One in between. So then one day I am at my bad job and I'm looking, doing also what you're not supposed to do, which is searching for another job while you're at your former job. And I see this job pop up for King of Prussia District, and I see at the bottom that it's this guy I know from Diversified Search who's doing the search, and I called him and I said, you know, what are you doing? Like, why didn't you tell me about this job? And he says, well, I didn't think that you'd be willing to drive to King of Prussia. So I said, well, that was really my decision to make, right? So I just happened to call him on his cell phone when he was literally driving out the Schuylkill Expressway on his way to a search committee meeting. So that brings me to the second part of how I got the job, and the important aspect was my network. I just happened to know somebody who was on that search committee in King of Prussia who I had worked with when I was in University City. So networking. And I'm not the greatest networker, but if it weren't for that contact, I probably wouldn't be in that job. So, you know, trying to get out of a bad situation and having a really good network where you get lucky and one of those people in your network is on the search committee that really led me to where I am right now.
Mike. So, two things that led me here today. I would say appreciate randomness. So I ended up in recruitment. I was a psych major in college. Nobody ever talked about recruitment. I didn't even know people helped people get jobs. I just assumed you applied through the Career Counseling Center and then your life would be set. You would go to GE and you would be there forever. And I happened to recruitment, didn't know anything about it, and was actually given a lot of opportunity that I look back now and say, wow. Here I am, 22 years old, sitting across from a hospital CEO, and just going with it because I didn't know anything else. Like, that was just common to be in search meetings and have those opportunities. And if I didn't take the chance on something that I wasn't familiar with, I wouldn't be here today. And I would share that, you know, even in your current role, the randomness still happens, whether it's projects or committees or just asking you to pitch in on something that you may not be familiar with. It just leads to that next step, or, you know, the other piece that got me here is just, you know, other people believing in me. You know, yes, you'll get there through hard work, but that sponsorship is really important. Even when you're not sure who your sponsor is, because most times you don't. Unless you're in those committee meetings or unless you're in those hiring meetings, the sponsorship just comes actually walking down the hall like, oh, I saw this person, she was so great on that project. You should look at her or look at him. And that becomes really important. So I think those two pieces is what helped get me here today.
Good morning. So, first thing I would say, this is one, you have to believe in yourself to be willing to become uncomfortable, right? I go from working on Wall Street to really becoming the CFO of a Y-Cycle company. Let that sink in. I go from Wall Street to a laundry company, which is crazy, right? So now you're going from tearing up earnings reports and going through all this data to, like, now you don't care how many times does the washing machine spin, right? How do we make this more efficient? But I said it to say, you know, going into leadership, no one's going to believe in you unless you believe in you. You got to be willing to make that investment. You have to be willing to do something that nobody else is willing to do. And you have to, like, not this to sound like Joel Embiid, is really genuinely trust the process, right? Because when you start, it doesn't look like it. You're going to find yourself saying, how did I end up here? Like, your income goes from here to here. But here's the funny part. Your debt goes from here to here. And you're trying to figure out, how do I manage all of this, right? But you cannot, like, lose sight of what you're really trying to achieve. And the second thing I would say is that you have to be passionate, right? There's this saying that you can make more money, you can't make more time, right? And I I really genuinely believe that. I don't pursue anything that I'm not passionate about, because what happens is you're going to lose focus and you're going to lose your energy in what you're trying to do. So if you're just going after this title, it's not going to work out, because what you're going to find is that that title becomes tiresome, and you're going to like, I'm trying to do this and I'm working this and I'm really trying to get after this thing that I'm not passionate about, and it's not going to excite you. And when you're not excited, your energy goes down, you start to not even care about it, and then you don't want to do it. So I would generally tell you to find something you're passionate about and let that passion create the platform. And the funny thing that always happens, that the opportunity presents itself. So those are two things that I would say, help me out.
That's great, thank you. There's a couple key themes here of taking a chance and getting out there, meeting other people, going with the flow, which can potentially be a little scary, but if you really believe in yourself and have that passion, that can definitely go a long way. So next question here, maybe Stephanie, we can start with you and work our way down the panel. What are some skills that professionals should really hone if they're looking to take their career to the next level?
Yeah, I'll just name a couple of them because I'm sure other people will have some to add. One of the skills is really relationship building. Relationship building is really key, and it's not just with your manager. It's not with your direct reports. It's not with the people that you work with. It's with people that you may just meet, in the hallway, at a networking event. You don't know where your career path is going to take you. It's definitely a winding road, and those people will come in and out. So those relationships are really key because people want to work with people that are really good to work with. If you're that person that's difficult to work with, people are like, oh, I don't know if I want that person on my committee, right? They'll always go to that person that's collaborative, that wants to think about synergies, that wants to share ideas and is open to feedback. The other skill is just continue to learn. That thirst for knowledge should never stop. The moment it stops, it means you're stalled in your career and actually in your life. There's so much going on around us. It's hard work. It really is hard work. To continue to grow in what you're passionate in and what your job is. So being aware of what's going on around you, read, Google, YouTube. I YouTube absolutely everything. If I don't know something, I'm YouTubing it. I'll Google, what's the new trends in talent acquisition or something like that. That's really important as well. And the third piece is just really communication. Whether it's written, whether it's FaceTime, whether it's literal FaceTime now, like real FaceTime. Not just on your iPhone. That's all really key. Do you have clarity of thought? Do you, convey what it is that you're passionate about? And most importantly, can you listen? And do you understand? So before you act, understanding what is required or what the necessity or what the problem is, that helps bring together the solution. Does anybody else want to add something?
I'll add writing. You absolutely have to hone your skills in writing. I can't emphasize how important that is. Being able to convey you as a person, but also your company or your department, what you're all about, what you do, your mission, what you're trying to achieve has to be conveyed in writing. And I just can't tell you how many times I see horrendous writing, and that is something like in our company, my company, we really emphasize that a lot. We are brutal about every single word that we put down on a page, every sentence, every paragraph, and very, very, very critical. Now, I didn't learn writing. I was a horrible writer until I went to grad school. That's where I learned to write. And I got beaten up pretty bad writing my thesis. But in the end, I really developed that skill. It was great. And I work on it constantly. I still work on it today. It's like every sentence I write, I'm very particular about what actually that says. Does that sentence lead to the next? It sounds like basic stuff, but it's really not. Most people are pretty bad writers. So that's a skill that you absolutely have to work on if you want to be a great leader. Great leaders can communicate and convey what they're trying to do. But that is 9 times out of 10 it's done in writing. The other thing is, And I don't know if it's a skill, but I want to echo Michael's point about passion. Actually, that is a skill. Yeah. Passion is a skill. It's something you can work on. If your pursuit is money or title, forget it. You are never going to be happy. You may be rich, but you are definitely not going to be happy. The happiness in a profession, in your career, absolutely comes from doing something that you're passionate in. And if you're a financial advisor or financial planner and you're truly passionate about helping people get their financial world in order, and you live and breathe that, you read about it, you learn about it, you write about it, communicate about that, that's your passion, you'll do great. But if you're in there because you want to make 300 grand a year, you're never going to be happy. So, and that is a skill I think that you can work on. You know, drop the email, pick up the phone, call people, the relationship building, critical. You know, I yell at people in my office all the time, email, relying on email, just lose it. So that's the other last skill.
That's true. To echo to all of that, the writing is really important. I was a terrible writer in high school, and it wasn't until I had to write hundreds of proposals to get clients, and if you can't convey what you're trying to do as a CEO of your company, and I would write them, I'm like, oh, 10 pages makes sense for a proposal, and understanding that people don't want 10 pages, they want to get to the point by the second page. So understanding how to kind of simplify what you're trying to say, whether it's an elevator pitch when you're networking or in writing when you're trying to, you know, obtain a client or a partner. But then also self-awareness. It took me so many years of being an entrepreneur to understand that I don't need to do everything in my company. When we first start, and even as you're working in a company, you try to be, you know, the person that does everything, and you try to learn everything, which is fine, but you've spend so much time faking it like you know everything that you don't really learn too many skills because you're faking it that you know everything. So it's like a lot of fake it till you make it, and then people forget to make it. They forget to get to that point where they actually know these skills that they say that they learn. So understanding what you know and understanding what you don't know as soon as possible. And you may take that time to learn a little bit aspects of it. I always say learn enough to hire or fire for it. Because if you don't know coding, for example, or something, or legal within your company or the company that you're working for, if you understand those skills enough to manage that person and or fire that person if they're not doing well. So definitely self-awareness, and people take a long time to learn that. And then also being positive, because when you, as he talked about your debt and the amount of money you start out with, and you know, it takes you a while as an entrepreneur to get to the point where you're cash positive. So if you're not positive when you have $5 in your bank account, you ain't gonna make it. Because you have to understand that this money is gonna come, and you can make this $5 last for about 5 days, depending where you eat at. So, and it's serious, because there's been times when, you know, we got an investment from a customer or a investor, a partner, and we literally had $5 in the bank account. We had to get to him to pick up the check to get back. And we had just enough to get there. So that's that positive to know that it's hard, and at the end of the day, if you love what you're doing, you're going to continue and know that 5 is going to go to 500,000 to 5 million or whatever it is you're trying to achieve within your company. So definitely self-awareness, understanding what you know and don't know, staying positive, communication and writing, and just understanding how to convey whatever it is you're trying to do or doing in speaking, an elevator pitch, and or in a written proposal.
Okay, I got 2 things. Same thing. This is not really, well, it's tech connection. How many people in this room are great networkers? You consider yourself a really good networker because you're hearing out of one hand, right? So can I give you all a quick tip, right, to start the conversation? Because I think that conversation is really critical, so people get to hear who you are, hear your thoughts, get a sense of the individual in front of them. So I like food, right? So Eric, I will be coming to see you, right? When you get to an event, scan the room. Find out where the food is coming from. Stand by the food, find what you like, and then when somebody eats what you like, instant conversation, right? It's so easy, right? Because if I found somebody that likes Thai chili shrimp, I'm like, this is great. Now, if you eat tofu, we ain't gonna really, you know, ain't gonna job. But I'm telling you, it's a great way to have a conversation. It makes everybody instantly comfortable instead of one of those awkward, hi, my name is Mike, here's my business card, right? Now you're having a genuine, authentic conversation with the individual. And then the last thing I would say is that be who you are. I am so key, I make it my mission to be Mike. I do not go in any room trying to be liked by everybody because it won't work. You will, again, see me near food. You will probably see me smiling, shaking hands, and doing those kind of things. And I think that is really important because if the authentic you shows up every time, you don't have to remember who you were when you introduced yourself to someone. You know, I'm amazed by how many people I meet, and every time I meet them, they're a different person. It's like that movie Split. I'm like, hey, you didn't have that accent before. You didn't have that accent, and now you graduated from another school. So, no, seriously, be who you are. Don't go in any room trying to be liked by everybody because it's not going to work, and people are going to find out how phony you are really, really quickly.
I love that. I am so the food person. Anybody that works with me, that's the first place I go before I talk to anybody. I sometimes come to events just for food. But that's a good way to network with people. I love that. I didn't think about the bonding over the food. I just said eat first. But.
Well, Mike, I'd be the person going for the tofu, so I guess that's what brought on.
Yeah, there we go. East-West, right?
Well, so that's a great segue. So Eric mentioned networking before. Mike, you brought up a great new way to network. So maybe Mike, you can start. Can you describe a little bit about the network that you've built over the years, and what are some things you should be thinking about? Are there particular people, you know, in certain roles that you want to network with? Like, what's a great way to kind of build up that network, and who's helped you along the way?
Right. First, again, back to being uncomfortable. My networks are all over the place. You will find me at an Asian chamber event. You will find me at people that love frogs event, right? Because I genuinely like to meet people from all walks of life, right? Because they stretch you, you grow, you're challenged, and you become a better person as a result of these diverse conversations that you have. So I don't go into rooms where it's only people that look like me, right? Because that's what my network's gonna look like, people that look like me. And that's not gonna get you really far in your career. The people that I have met that have been the most helpful have come out of the rooms that you probably would not expect me to be in. Literally, you're like, what is Mike doing in there? You'll see me on like social media, like, he's hanging out with those folks. Yeah, I'm like at Comic-Con, hang out with these Harry Potter people, right? Because you never know where the next opportunity is going to come. Just because it's a Harry Potter convention, that means a CEO is not in there, right? They like Harry Potter, it's like, you don't know, like it. No, I really don't like Harry Potter, right? But that's just an example for the record, they can be clear. And the second thing that I would say with regards to networking, I'm trying to get my thoughts back. Uncomfortable. Oh, surround yourself with the people that you want to become. If I want to become a homeowner, I'm not going to hang out with people that don't have a desire to own a home. If I want to become a CEO, and I'm not saying use people, but these people that you should be getting your thoughts from and having conversations with. If I want to become the CEO of the organization, it might not serve me well to talk to the guy that's making the cookies in the cafeteria. And that's a great job, but that's not my personal desire. So I make it a habit of surrounding myself with people that are way smarter than me, that are in leadership so that they can help guide me. And if I have a question, I know who I can go to. What's the Henry Ford quote that I don't always have the answers, but I always know where to find them. So that's what I would say.
Great. So, you know, about your network, you know, there's the obvious, right? The people that you work with, you know, your manager, your team members, but also other people within your company or other companies with like positions or like mindsets, people that you want to know, people that you admire. Go to events like this. Nobody comes in and says, I want to be rude today, so if you talk to me, I'm totally not going to talk to you. That doesn't happen because people, well, I would think 99.9% of the time, that would not happen because everybody is coming to network just like you and they're not sure what to say or what to do. So it's a lot easier than you think when you just kind of take your emotion out and say, we're going to meet today, or I'm going to reach out to you on LinkedIn. I have a question for you. And the worst they could say is no, and the next thing you say is, on to the next person. That's it. It doesn't always need to be as personal of a rejection. So I will share that with you. You know, when you network, you are putting yourself out there, but in a way that can be safe as well. The other point that I think that's important for your network is just really figuring out who do you, back to your point about your house, or you know, if you want to be a homeowner, so we can be friends because I'm a homeowner. Who do you want to be, or who do you admire? What's the skill set, and how do you learn? People want to help other people get better. People want to transfer knowledge. People, you know, want to help you with an issue or a challenge. So I would reach out as well. And then I'm going to add 3 things because I'm going to be different. Don't forget to network back. So when you ask people for something and you got what you need, whether that's a new job or your house or whatever it is, don't leave the conversation, because that's what happens most. People come in, they get what they need, they go to these events, oh, I got a new job, I met these people, and then we never hear from you again until you need another job. And that becomes hard. It's hard to kind of start again. And people will, you know, continue to help you, but you should continue to build those networks. Reach out to people randomly on LinkedIn. Hey, we haven't talked in a while. Hey, I met you at this event. Let's have coffee. Did you see this article? It doesn't need to be so forceful, but it can just be that you're on my mind, and I think there are some key pieces to help you continue to be successful in your networks.
I'm going to be really honest with you here. I hate networking, and I'm awful at it. I came into this room today, and I walked right over there, and I sat there and drank a bottle of water, and looked at emails on my phone, and I even made a phone call. I didn't talk to anybody, because, and this is really honest, I don't think people are interested in talking to me in a cold situation. That's how I come into a networking situation. So I sit there, and I don't go over to the food, because I usually don't eat the food at these events. Not that it's not good, it's probably delicious. But I don't strike up a conversation because somebody loves pineapple, and so do I. But I have a huge network, I really do, and I'll tell you how I built it. I built it through a comment that Michael made before, which is sincerity and honesty, which I think is way more important than networking every day of your life. I built it individually. So while I'm really bad in a setting like this, and I'm going to stand there over in the corner until somebody comes over and talks to me, I'm really good at one-on-one. If I make a phone call or if I'm meeting somebody, I'm good at sort of establishing a relationship with that person, like a sincere relationship with that person. I am going to be me.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to be sincere, and I'm going to be honest. And a lot of times that honesty means you're going to hear something that maybe you don't want to hear. Or that I'm saying something that's different than what you believe or something like that. But that doesn't mean that we still can't have a great relationship. And I've built up my network doing that, like these one-on-ones. So I guess it takes me a lot longer. Like I'm not like the country club guy. I don't belong to the Union League or the Pyramid Club. I don't go to those kinds of networking events. I hate golf. But I've gotten to a point in life where I think, you know, I've been pretty successful, and I've led a couple of different companies, but I've built it my own way. But definitely it was through one-on-one. So I guess my message is more like, don't feel like if networking's not your thing. And it's easy for people to say, I network, I go to these events. But if you're not comfortable in that situation, don't feel like that's the only way that you could build up your network. Throw your iPhone off the edge of your chair. By the way, I don't mean to be rude. I'm not like texting while I'm up here. I actually have notes on that iPhone that just went off the end of my chair. But anyway, the point is, so like, don't feel like you have to be like that great networker. I'm not a great networker. You could do it one person at a time and build up a really solid network of people over a long period of time. I think that's what I've done.
I agree with him. I'm not great at networking. I normally try to be a part of the event, so people come up to me versus me having to come up to them. And when I first started networking, I tried to go and get as many cards as possible, right? Just, hey everybody, I'm here. And now I'm like, that's a terrible way to do it, because one, you don't actually email everybody, and two, you don't have maybe the same interest or a reason to talk to them afterwards sometimes if you're just gathering cards. So it's kind of knowing who's at the event before you get there, and knowing that you could spark up a conversation genuinely when you actually have things in common or looking to learn more about what they're doing. So now I kind of have like 3 buckets of people that I meet and build relationships with. So I have one bucket that are like friends / mentors that are completely opposite of what I do, but they just give great advice. Like my best friend is a doctor, and she never wanted to be an entrepreneur, never wants to be an entrepreneur, and she gives me the best advice about everything, and the most encouraging person that I know, and doesn't understand anything of what I do, but she can give the best advice. And so she's a mentor / my best friend, and I have a lot of those folks that just are great people. And then I have people that, once you understand your idea of success, like what is success to you, everybody has their own version. That can be working for a corporation, that can be owning your own company, that can be being a TV personality, whatever it is. So being around those folks that are in multiple things like you are, or focused on that one thing. And then like the third set of friends are like my creative friends that we kind of hang out just on leisure time, but they give me so much inspiration. So as I'm trying to come up with like an event idea or something, I'll sit down with my creative people that make music and do completely opposite. They get up at 12, but when they wake up, they're the most creative people ever. And I can sit down with them, and because they're completely opposite of what I work in as far as like nonprofits and small businesses, they give me some of the best ideas because they're on the outside looking in. And part of what I get paid for the most is my creativity, but because I'm in so many different rooms, sometimes my creative juices kind of stop a little bit because I'll be all over the place. And I'll go and I'll hang out, I'll go to a concert, or I do the things I would do in my leisure time. And I'll go to a movie and I'll hang out with people, and they'll just give me like the best idea, and I'm like, oh, eureka, I have it. And then I'll bring them along on a meeting, and they're giving me the best advice because they're not in this industry. And then I can give them the best advice being a creative person because I'm not doing it as full-time as they are. So kind of, you know, having different types of groups of people that you go to for different things.
It's great. Thank you all for those insights. So we're going to open it up to your questions. So do we have a mic or any specific questions? Oh, here we go. Doug?
I don't need a mic. I don't need a mic. Each of you, I would say, is uniquely you. You can see like this passion and fire in everyone, but it's all different, right? And like I loved how it was different because, you know, Eric to Michael, you know, you had different flares, but I think identify with different points. So my biggest question is, how do you find and keep focused on that passion and purpose that really each of you seem to, like, all 4 of you have? How do you, in a world where you're millions of messages hitting us all the time and we can become very confused? I hope I'm not alone on that. But how do you stay with that? Because I feel like all of you have that, and it's driving this like happiness that exudes from you and keeping on point.
Can I start? Hey, cool.
You have 2 things?
I have 2 now, I'm joking. I am not afraid to say no. I'm really not. I am true to my core. You will not find me doing things that I'm not passionate about. And it's cost me things, and I'm comfortable. I mean, it costs me relationships, it's cost me money. But at the end of the day, I'm happy because I'm not compromising my integrity. So if I was offered a role today and they paid me 5 times more, right? Now, my girlfriend may want me to take the job, right? But I won't take it because I know for a fact that I'm not going to enjoy it. And I teach people, you have to learn the power of no, right? You can't just say yes to everything that comes your way, because at the end of the day, who are you, right? Then I'm really not passionate, I'm really putty, right? I just morph into whatever situation I'm in, and I try to fit and become that person or that thing that's needed for that moment. So I embrace saying no to the things that I'm not passionate about.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's keeping that end goal in sight. And sometimes you can easily lose it, right? What are you in here for? I love my job. I love what I do. I love what I do for this company. Every day that is what I think about. Why do I love what I do? Because I connect great people to great jobs. That's what I do. To help good companies be able, or great companies be able to move forward. And that's what I think about every single day. And there is so much noise that comes in that can weigh you down, that could almost break you at times. But when you think about why am I here and why am I doing what I'm doing, and it's not for the money. You can make a lot of money somewhere else depending on what you're doing. But when you love what you do every day, you can go home with a clear mind and say, I can't wait again to do it tomorrow. So I think keeping that end purpose is important.
I agree. I mean, for me, my energy and focus just comes from the challenge. It was the mission of the organization. So I do go after, I've been in for-profit jobs. I've also been in not-for-profit jobs. This is my third not-for-profit job. I've had 3 for-profit jobs. But I'm a mission-driven type of guy. And I came to King of Prussia because there was a challenge. There was a very specific challenge that was presented. It was a community that was struggling financially, and they were looking for ways to turn themselves around. I come from a background in design, educated as a landscape architect and an urban planner. So I was like enamored by that challenge. I had always worked in the city, in Center City, University City was my first suburban job. And I was like, wow, this is like an unbelievable opportunity to help a suburban community turn itself around. So I was completely driven by the mission. And I get up every single morning. 7 years later, I'm still driven today to sort of bring success to that, to change King of Prussia. 7 years later, I still get up with the same passion and energy every single day. We're constantly bombarded with other things we could do and ways that we can go. But I'm a pretty like A to B type personality, and I'm pretty focused, so that helps me to stay on point.
For me, it definitely goes back to what I said about self-awareness, because being in multiple industries and working in multiple positions, I used to be scared to talk about it. I used to be like, oh, I'm doing too much. And because people around me wasn't doing as much as I was scared to like, oh, I only do this one thing. And once I became self-aware that this is what I'm passionate about, I'm good at all of these things, I'm not just, dabbling in them, I became, encouraged to talk about it more. Now people are in 100 things, and now that's the thing to do, right? So at that time I was doing it, everybody had that one job or that one company. So to do radio, to do technology, to do community and political things was like, oh, that's too much, you're doing too much. So understanding that helped me stop being jealous of other people if they got a contract over me. Because once I realized my idea of success, like what was success like for me, no longer getting jealous of a woman that got a contract, and I would be like, Tiff, that contract wasn't for you, it was for her, and that's okay. Because that's not your idea of success, that's not a company you want to work with. So it takes out the jealousy of competitors, and it helps you be happy for other people. It helps you really build relationships, because your competitors can turn into your partners at a later date, because you have your set of clients, they have their set of clients, and even though you do the same thing, you do it for different people, and that's okay. So it's definitely for me with self-awareness, and once I realized who I was and who I wanted to become, I was happy with everything that I did, and if I didn't get something, I knew something else was better was coming, which is hard to even, like, oh, you see 5 years from now, it's gonna come. And now I look back on everything that went wrong with Prestige, everything I did wrong, all the self-talk, everything, the financial, things that I did wrong, brought me to today. Because everything, that we're doing with stimulus was because of everything that went wrong with Prestige. So now I look at things like everything truly happened for a reason.
Well, I work in social media and I see all these messages all day, every day, so I'm gonna bottle up all this positive energy and great perspective and take it with me throughout the day. Great, thank you. Any other questions that we have here? Okay.
So you've all been very vulnerable today, so thank you. I think it's always good to hear when people are so honest about it. So in terms of your career, I'm sure that you've each kind of made some type of mistake or I wish I didn't do it that way, and obviously you learn a lesson from it. Can you just maybe share what maybe one of those mistakes were and kind of what advice from that you could share with us? What you learned from it?
Do you want me to say? I'll start. I will say I made a lot of mistakes in my career. I have, from giving away a car that I didn't have approval for to a candidate, to a system that was supposed to launch that didn't. So you have big mistakes in your career, and it's how you really recover from them. But Michael shared this earlier. Probably the biggest one is don't stop believing in yourself, because the moment you lose confidence in what you can do, everybody else starts to lose confidence in you as well. And you really have to dig deep at times and talk to family, talk to friends, talk to your mentors, and get that confidence back, because you can derail yourself without anybody even attempting to derail your career. And that kind of negative thought or just that lack of belief is probably one of the things in my career that I've suffered from a couple of times, but have always figured out a way to come out thanks to the help of friends and great people that I've worked with.
So I would say I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning of my business, because everything was self-taught, a lot of searching online. And I probably would say the most was like speaking engagement, saying no to all the stuff that put me in front of the scenes, because I spent so many years behind the scenes. I was the person writing this and creating this marketing plan for a client. And I said no so many times that I would be in projects that people didn't know I worked on, or did the writing for, or did the marketing for, because I was so, like, I wanted to be perfect at it before I talked about it. And so it took me years before I became like a speaker and became, in the forefront of something. So I was just always nervous, especially being young, starting my company, like being in my early 20s, like looking young now, but imagine what I look like at 20, like I look like 15. So I was always nervous to like be in front, because I felt like I didn't have enough experience. Even though I landed the client, I still felt like I didn't have enough experience to talk about the fact that I got this client. I felt like I need to do the work first, then I'll talk about it later. And then the new client would come, and I never talked about the first one. So I would say just not being confident enough in myself to say, Tiffany, you landed this, talk about it, put it in press, speak about it, speak on what your expertise is. It took me a long time to showcase what my expertise was, because I thought I needed to be perfect at it first before I became a speaker on it.
Never made a mistake. How do I explain this? When I was, without giving away the position, I was the top person in an organization, and was pushed out of that job, which happens. And I was very young. I was in my early 30s. Although I didn't realize at the time that that happens. I took it extremely personally. And it was only much later in life, and I think I may be a lot older than the people that are in this room. I'm 48, about to be 49. This was in my early 30s. I took that move really personally, and literally was like depressed for 2 to 3 years. So the mistake that I made was I took that personally, and I didn't realize that when you're in an executive level position, there are people above you that you report to, boards, things like that, that make moves that have nothing to do with you personally. It's a professional decision. They do it for their own reasons. Sometimes it's not a valid reason. It's because of their personality that they move you out or do something. But the lesson that I've learned, or the mistake that I made, was that A, I took it personally, and B, I didn't defend myself. I stayed quiet. Don't stay quiet. That's part of the sincerity and the honesty that you bring to your job. Be vocal. If you believe in something, be vocal. If you're going to get pushed out of something, get pushed out stating your case. Being the person you are, making sure people understand what you stand for, what you believe in. Don't be quiet. But also don't take things like that. And it'll probably happen in your careers. If you are advancing into senior level positions, you're going to run into situations where you get pushed out of something, and it's probably no fault of your own. It's because of a personality issue, or department going in a different direction, company going in a different direction. You just have to stay positive, and press on, but be yourself.
Yeah, I would say, you know, kind of piggybacking on a part of Eric's last remark is one of the mistakes that I made, particularly early in my career, was not speaking up, right? Things happen in the job, and you see other individuals get promoted, you see opportunities that they seem to pass you by, you know, you're afraid to ask, you know, am I entitled to a raise? Why am I not getting this promotion? What makes me different? And I would just watch it, and I wouldn't say anything. And treat your career like your relationship, right? If you let people drag you along, guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna drag you along. Dating is not the only place that Netflix and chill exists. Your company will Netflix you and chill until they wanna let you go. So it's up to you to ask the questions about where's this career going? Where do you see me in this organization 3, 5 years now? What does that track look like? What do I need to do to position myself for the opportunity? So now what you essentially have done is taken away every excuse for that person not to allow you to move up. And if you do those things and it doesn't happen, now you have to focus on your exit strategy. You're not there for 20 years, you're not out of the prime of your career. Now you're like, wow, I'm 60, 70 years old, and I've waited at this company for 30 years in the same position. Now what do I do? So I would say the one mistake that I definitely made was not speaking up soon enough.
Thank you. So we have about a minute or so left. One final thought from each of you. What is one book, podcast, resource, something that this audience should walk away with to advance either their career, or it sounds like you guys have a lot of advice for just staying happy in general. So what's one resource that everyone should check out?
I don't know, I don't read. I really don't. I read articles, I don't read books. That's honest to God. I have no idea. Learn to write, that's all I have to say. Learn to write. Find a class, find a place where you could really learn to be a skilled writer and master that. That will help your career tremendously.
I do read. Not as often as I like, because it depends on my week, but I like a lot of autobiographies just because I love hearing people's personal stories more than like, this is how you do it books. I just like to know, you know, everybody has a different story, a different background. We see so much on social media that everything looks great until you read people's story and think overnight it says, oh no, they've been doing this for 20 years. So I try to understand people's story to understand, like, oh, it's okay I'm not here by 40 or by 30 or whatever. And understand that your story, your journey is just as important as anybody else, and everybody's journey is going to be different. So I love to understand people's why. Oh, that's a book. Why? What is that book called? Understand your why or something?
What's your why?
What's your why? Yes, I love that book.
Oh, I guess it's still your mic.
No, you want me to go? You want
Go for it.
Okay. So for me, I like I said earlier, I do everything on YouTube. So I love TED Talks. I love Brene Brown. I think she's pretty inspirational. I love what she has to say. From a book perspective, I get tons of books delivered to me every day by vendors. But one of the books, and this is an oldie, but it's still goodie, it's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I look at that all the time because I have not mastered all 7 habits. I sometimes have to go back and say, where's my balance? How do I be proactive? How do I synergize? All those different pieces are really important, and they make you just a better person. Like if you can take those into your personal life, there's a lot of books that people will recommend that I just can't relate to. And if you find them, that's okay. Books work, or articles, or YouTube, or Google, any of that stuff will work. You have to find what works for you. And you can take different advice and different opinions and breeze through it, but when you find what works for you, you'll know.
I read a lot of books. But if I was to say what they all have in common, whether it's the University of Success by Medina, the Science of Getting Rich, the Alchemist, or even like the Bible, right? The one thing that I typically gravitate towards is anything that challenges my thinking, right? Because I noticed that the more that my thinking is challenged, the more outcomes I have positive in my life. So I'm always looking for things that are going to allow my mind to expand, so I can think bigger than what I'm thinking today. And it's a funny thing that when you start thinking these things and believe that they're possible, they become possible. So that's what I would be with.
That's great. Thank you all so much for being with us today. This has been wonderful insights and a lot of actionable insights as well, so we really appreciate it.